Speaker, it is a privilege to close this debate on behalf of His Majesty's official opposition, and I praise all members for their contributions, and while I didn't agree with all of them, I certainly recognise the passion with which they delivered for the topics that they cared about. In particular, I'd like to recognise my right honourable my honourable friends for Mid Leicestershire and Bognor Regis and Littlehampton, and it's with my honourable friend for Bognor Regis and Littlehampton I'd like to start, because she said something I do agree with, which is that Labour is taking this country in the wrong direction. And this is a sentiment that is agreed with by the newly made former Health Secretary, who said in his resignation letter, "Where we need vision, we have vacuum. Where we need direction, we have drift." This is a damning indictment of a government that is saying that it wants to get Britain working again. The Conservatives are absolutely committed the Conservatives are actually committed to getting Britain working again, and the Conservatives got a record 4 million more people in work between 2010 and 2024. This allowed millions more people to have the security of their own income, empowering them to own their own home and look after their families. The Minister chunked us from a sedentary position. That was 800 new jobs a day that we created in those 14 years. This has taken a dire turn since the change of government. Since Labour took office, unemployment has risen to 5.2%, and payroll jobs have reduced by £110,000. The Office for Budget Responsibility haven't even raised the unemployment rate forecast for 2026, for 2027 and 2028. There is only one conclusion. Labour are letting people down, and they are consigning more people into welfare instead of good, honest work.
Including the Prime Minister.
I want to focus particularly on young people and on the prospects where, unfortunately, there is an even bleaker picture that is being painted. My honourable friend for Mid Leicestershire, I agree with him when he said that this government is failing young people. The youth unemployment rate, I heard a lot of members talk about getting young people back into work. The youth unemployment rate is 15.9%, up by 2.7% since this Labour Party took office. They've been in power for 2 years, and that has been the consequence. 1 in 6 young people are now unable to find a job. This government is pushing more young people onto benefits which has deeper long-term consequences. There are now nearly 1 million 18 to 24-year-olds not in education, employment or training, and amongst graduates, the Centre for Social Justice estimates that there are around 700,000 people out of work and claiming benefits. And the impacts of this cannot be understated, Madam Deputy Speaker. Every month spent out of work means you take more than you give to the state. And as I was campaigning in my local elections across Meriden and Solihull East, I can tell you that young people want to work because there is dignity in work, there is hope in work. And every month a young person spends out of a job, it makes it harder for them to get back into employment. And whilst their peers are developing critical skills in the workplace, those out of work fall behind. It also weakens your ability to save and put money away for the future, making it harder, for example, to save for your first home, for your family or for your retirement. The numbers of young people out of work is a calamity, and the government must do much more to address this. And nothing that has been said or set out by the government has reassured me that they understand that. The Employment Rights Act of the previous parliamentary session has already started to have a catastrophic impact on the jobs market. This disastrous piece of legislation has increased costs for businesses and discouraged hiring, especially for young people. And I say this to the benches opposite, just listening to the last speech as well. Business owners aren't just there to be squeezed till their pip squeaks. They're the ones who take the risk. They're the ones who invest. They're the ones who create the jobs. And I will, of course, also challenge the government on the educational space, because I believe they've been completely ineffective. Just this week, the Prime Minister now has made new pledges on apprenticeships and skills in an effort to turn his failing premiership around. Perhaps he also recognises what I do, because the data on apprenticeships, the picture is mixed at best. The department responsible for work should be a shining example of the government's commitment to more apprenticeships. Regrettably, it's far from it. The number of apprenticeship starts at the DWP, for example, has actually fallen. And the government's broken promises on apprenticeships are best shown in relation to level 7 qualifications. These are high quality pathways. I'm talking about level 7, maybe the Secretary of State may want to pay attention. These high quality pathways allow people to get into professions like accountancy, engineering and architecture without accumulating the same debt as graduates do. However, the government continue to restrict level 7 funding for those over 22, meaning that they are now missing out on those opportunities, as do, and also, by the way, putting level 6 apprenticeships at risk. In opposition, I can see the Secretary of State's very audible. In opposition, the Shadow Education Secretary promised graduates that they will pay less under Labour. This has turned out to be nothing other than another broken promise, because now not only is it harder for graduates to get into work, but tuition fees have also gone up twice. So those that are paying those fees are now doing so with no promise of valued work at the end of it all. I also want to address the SEND bill, the Education for All bill proposed in the King's Speech. And while in the time today I don't have the luxury of asking all the questions that parents have wanted me to pose to the government, there are a couple of things there are a couple of things that I do. I'm happy to take an intervention from the Secretary of State. The questions that they have done, the government has claimed that the bill will make generational reforms to the SEND system, and the outlines of those proposals have been put in the white paper, but I have to say parents are none the wiser. I've been meeting with a lot of parents, and despite the rhetoric from the government, I see parents with more anxiety and not less. Just this Monday I met with a number of SEND parents from my constituency, and all they want for their children is to have a chance at life. And so I asked the Minister, and perhaps she'll address this in her points, and this is a question put to me by parents, that the consultation doesn't address sufficiently what will happen to 16 to 19-year-olds and what to help them get into work. And so those that can work can get into work. And I have to ask the Minister, with all that's going on outside the chamber, with what's going on in number 10, if the government is consumed by leadership contests and machinations, when will the legislation come to the House? Because this chaos will only further exacerbate the anxiety and anguish for parents and their children. And I was told yesterday that the government has actually been distributing briefing documents to its MPs to get supportive responses to its consultation. If the reform proposals are so good, why is the government trying to stack its own consultation? Thank you.
I thank the Shadow Minister for giving way. He does seem a little bit confused in his remarks. In the same breath, he's urging the government to bring the bill to tackle the broken SEND system to the House as soon as possible. In the other breath, he's saying that the consultation hasn't run its full course and hasn't brought enough people in. Which is it? Because it can't be two at the same time.
I think the honourable member wasn't paying attention. Actually, what I said was, I worry that the consultation is being stacked, but actually parents want to see the legislation because there is not enough clarity in the consultation. They do not have the answers to the questions they are asking. And I certainly hope the parents that he meets make that clear to him. Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, with little indication that the government are going to set out comprehensive plans to support young people, the opposition have been busy drawing up their own proposals for an alternative King's Speech. We have laid out comprehensive plans to help recruit thousands of new apprentices. Our apprenticeship guarantee will remove the funding cap for apprenticeships for 18 to 21-year-olds. This will ensure that employers have fully funded access to training, helping 100,000 extra young people into work every year. In addition, we will seek to encourage more employers to take on 18 to 21-year-olds by introducing a business rebate for investment in training and skill scheme, the BRIT scheme, providing a new incentive of up to £5,000 for businesses to take on 18 to 21-year-old apprentices. In the higher education space, the Conservatives have clear plans to rebalance the system. We have a proud record of expanding higher education, but we also recognise that more needs to be done to address the growth of low-value courses. Some degrees have ended up becoming a poor deal for both taxpayers and graduates. They don't help young people into work and end up being footed by, and the bill ends up being footed by the taxpayer, some who have not benefited from a university education themselves. That's why our alternative King's Speech lays out plans to get more people into apprenticeships using money saved from cutting low-value, low-outcome degrees. I'll give way.
Thank my honourable friend giving way. I actually want to make a point to help him. So I think there's a page of his speech he's missed and dropped on the floor, getting ready for it. I've heard nothing in his comments about the 40% drop in young people doing apprenticeships when his government was in power, or the devastating impact on Peterborough that less young people did an apprenticeship because of the policy of his government. If he's dropped that piece of paper and forgot to mention it, I'm very happy to supply him with the facts.
I say to the honourable member, we created over 5 million apprentices, and let me say this, if you want to hire young people, you have to have an economy that works for businesses that hires them. But I'm sure the Mayor of Peterborough, Paul Bristow, will be doing an excellent job in making sure that there is more investment in education and investment in young people. Alongside rebalancing the system, we're also looking to abolish real interest on Plan 2 student loans, ending the unfair cycle whereby higher interest rates mean graduate debt rises faster than graduates can pay it off. These proposals are much more comprehensive than those laid out by the government. Labour's plans to cap student loan repayments at 6% will leave graduates ripped off, paying interest above inflation. It shows that they do not have a plan for young people and will continue to tinker around the edges rather than make genuine, bold change. Now, I finish where I started because the constant speculation about the future of the Prime Minister does mean his ministers won't be spending time on looking at how to make a better deal for young people, whether it's boosting home ownership or reducing youth unemployment or getting the economy growing. In fact, just yesterday, Madam Deputy Speaker, I read reports of the Minister for Children asking the Prime Minister to set out a timetable for his departure. Now the Health Secretary has resigned, I asked the Minister, does she support the Prime Minister?
Minister Georgia Gold.